Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi Taraiwamashi Hen. Last time we have a suspected switcheroo between Shion and Mion. Not confirmed, but there's like just a I think it's pretty much confirmed just as there's so many holes in Shion or Mion's demeanor, like how she just didn't know about the punishment game or the fact that they just met at all. Um, Probably means it's Shion, and how she's baiting Keiichi by telling him this stuff. Probably a similar tactic to Watanagashi, trying to use him as bait to lure out the true, the well, quote unquote true victim villains in her eyes at least. um but yeah, I guess we're just next day. We'll see. I think it's hard to say. We'll see if the mayor goes missing, if it follows sort of the Shion pattern, because it is a little abnormal to what we know. But yeah, next morning, still on chapter 2, by the way. We've had 3 chapter breaks. I wonder if they're just trying to do the whole arc in a chapter, man. We'll see though. The classroom felt quiet all morning. Was that really the case, or did the day just feel that way since Mion wasn't here today? I wasn't really sure. Mion always has a strong presence, there's no doubt about that, but regardless, she's absent today. Apparently, she caught a particularly stubborn cold. Club activities are usually suspended anytime Mion is out. However, since she'd been out for a few days, we eventually started club activities again. Okay, few days, huh? Wait, really? Yeah, I guess we had a time skip. Huh. Everyone loves our club activities. Everyone was thinking the same thing, that we wanted to hear Mion making a ruckus again as soon as possible. With Mion out, my chances at victory should have been much higher. But I've been losing a lot recently. I just couldn't concentrate and kept thinking about Mion. And that extended beyond just club activities too. The feeling has plagued me throughout my daily life for the past few days. And today was a particularly low point. For better or worse, the stories I've heard left me far too exhausted to endure a penalty. Today's punishment game will have to be postponed until next time. That's what allowed me to escape a penalty today. Once again, Rena and I had to head home alone. Even though Mion couldn't come, the Higurashi were still crying out like usual. No matter who's gone, the Higurashi will continue to cry out no matter what happened the day before. Right? Isn't that the case?
どうしたのケイチくん。遠い目になってるよ。
え、何？
レナが聞いてるんだよ。なんか考え事かな。
いや、別に。
次の罰ゲームが怖いのかな。
そんなとこかな。
Rena was bringing up unusually random topics. The conversation felt like Rena wasn't acting like herself. Maybe she was starting to get suspicious of me? Or maybe there's just no space left in my head to process Rena's small talk.
そういえば最近、ケイチくん部活負けっぱなしだね。
なんか調子出なくてさ。
じゃあ、ようか
Pickles?
なんて言った？
だからね、ケイチくんが調子出る
Oh,
ように、
yes.
お漬物でも差し入れようかって。
I remember. Keiichi praised Rena's pickles. It was like the first, or one of the first scenes in Undertakashi.
前に美味しいって言ってくれたから。
サンキュー。
Mion, or rather that story I heard from Mion, has been stuck inside my head ever since I first heard it.
ケイチくんってば。
Rena was still talking to me. She'll probably be disappointed in me if I ignore her, but I just couldn't bring myself to focus on that.
そういえばさ、富武さんの話何か聞いた？
Tomataki-san. Tomataki-san.
どうして？
レナのところにね、来た警察の人が。
Oh, Ooishi? Tomataki-san's story. Why would the police be asking Rena about that?
レナ、そいつはどんな話を？
Oh, what the heck? The moment I said that, my voice was drowned out by the sound of a car horn. Is it Ooishi? Yeah, we've seen that car. First appearance. The black car had stopped right beside Rena and I. The car's imposing presence had me feeling on edge. Alarm bells were going off inside my head. A middle-aged man emerged from the car.
すみませんすみません。
It's good to see our OG top.
はい。
前原圭一さんですか？
Interestingly, this is our first meeting, so far ahead.
そうですけど。
Who is this old guy? I've never met him before. But despite that, he already knew my name. The atmosphere clearly felt abnormal. When I studied his features, he looked like a slightly pudgy but not quite overweight middle-aged man. He seemed the kind of person that could flex every muscle in his body in a crisis. His body seemed appropriate for an elderly judo master. At least that's the impression I got. His voice sounded soft, but there was nothing sweet or carefree in his gaze. He was the type whose occupation was difficult to guess. No, I felt like there were a lot of occupations that would match his type.
ちょっと話があるんですけど、よろしいですか？
What's the best way to answer a sudden question like that? Just then, I felt a tug on my sleeve. It was Rena.
今日はね、一緒にお買い物だ。
Covering?
はう。
Based? Rena's comment was so abrupt, it took me a moment to figure out what she was getting at. But after Rena whispered that, I understood completely.
この人だよ。
When Rena said, "This is him," it was obvious that she was referring to someone in particular. This must be the detective that visited Rena. And Rena was doing her best to get me away from him. Would it be better to sit with Rena and decline this man's request? Maybe for her sanity.
こりゃとんだ邪魔者みたいですね。
そうなっちゃいますね。
いやいや申し訳ないです。なるべく早くに済ませますからね。
ああ。でも、何のご用ですか？
私は沖宮署の大石と申します。
ああ。大石さんですか？
お話の内容についてはお隣の竜宮レナさんから伺ってませんか？
特に何も。なあ、レナ。
何も話してません。誰にも話すなって言われましたから。
I guess Ooishi's just like talking to everyone. Beyond Rena, now us.
それ
Interestingly
はいい
enough.
心がけです。こちらとしては助かります。で、その同じ話を前原さんにもさせてもらえないかとお願いできませんかね。
今じゃないとダメなんですか？
お買い物だよね。
Rena continued to pressure him. But despite his soft appearance, this detective Ooishi was still reluctant to give a yes or no answer.
竜宮さん、お気持ちはわかりますがね。今日のところは前原さんをお借りできませんか？ねえ前原さん、お願いしますよ。
It seemed impossible to get away from this guy, so I gave Rena a subtle wink. Rena looked a bit uneasy, but she lightly nodded in response.
わかりました。お話を伺います。レナ、悪い。先に帰ってくれ。
うん、 わかった。また明日ね。ね。
Lots of Rena repeating. You know, she does it a lot, but we've heard a lot this segment already.
助かります。お邪魔しちゃってすみません。これも仕事なんでね。
Once Rena started heading home, I entered Ooishi's car. It was nice and cool inside the car. In fact, it was rather cold, probably because he's blasting the aircon. Based. This must be a luxury car to have an air conditioner like that. Or maybe it's just my dad's car that doesn't have AC.
冷えすぎだったら言ってくださいよ。私、ガンガンに冷やしちゃうたちですから。
Honestly, same. I love blasting the aircon.
ああ
The conversation was progressing at Ooishi-san's pace. I was a little annoyed, but I couldn't think of anything I could do to fight it.
すみませんね、急な話で。
It felt like this detective was able to read everything inside my heart. Sorry, Keiichi, literally everyone can do that, though. At this point, I was having trouble figuring out what kind of person he was. However, I got the general impression that it would be best not to make an enemy of him. Ooishi-san swiftly pulled a notebook out of his breast pocket and began flipping through it, then pulled out a photo sandwiched between the pages. It looked like a driver's license photo or something, and I could see the expressionless face of a man. Then I began to tremble, because I recognized that face.
この男性のことでご存知のことがあったら教えてください。竜宮レナさんはじめ前原さんもお知り合いのはずですよね。
これ富武さん。
Why would this detective come all this way to ask me about Tomitaki-san? What was he trying to accomplish?
ちなみに彼、祭りの夜から失踪しています。
Disappeared?
最後に会った時のことを聞かせてもらえませんかね。
Probably just hiding it from us. It's interesting because most of the time we learn about... Actually, no, that's not true. I was going to say most of the time we learn about the death from Ooishi, but that's actually just not true. That's just in Onakakashi's case. Maybe Tatari. I know in Watanagashi, Shion tells you. I forgot what happened to Tatari. You might get it from like... Yeah, actually I don't know.
祭りの夜に会ったのが最後ですけど。
それきり会ってないんですね。
ええ。
そうですか。
Ooishi-san scribbled something in his notebook as he listened. I wonder what he's writing down. Are those investigation notes?
それで前原さん、あなたはこの男性が失踪するような理由、何か心当たりありますか？
いえ、全くありません。
人から恨まれていたとか、男女関係で揉め事を起こしていたとか。
Actually kinda true.
些細なことで構いませんよ。何かこの人について教えてくださいよ。粘着質な性格で、女性からは相当嫌われていたっていうような話も耳にしてるんですがね。
Okay, I didn't know that.
もしかしたらストーカーまがいのことをして逆恨みでも
This is some Tomitaki slander. My dude's jacked and has best girl as a girlfriend. One of the best girls.
富武さんはそんな人じゃないです。
Yeah. Thank you, Keiichi. Defend my dude. Ooishi was speaking far too brazenly of the deceased. He could only take false accusations so far. It felt like he was disrespecting a dead man, and I wanted to stand up for him. However, I quickly regretted getting so fired up over nothing.
いえ、すみません。つい。でも本当に富武さんはみんなの人気者でした。殺されるような理由なんて全く思い当たらない。
Right then, Ooishi-san raised an eyebrow. Yep, you. Shouldn't have said that, because there's the trick. He didn't say Tomitaki was killed, he just said disappeared. Now you gotta burn Mion. That moment I realized the error in what I had just said.
お
Uh-oh.
や彼が殺されたことをどうして知っているんですか？
I cursed myself, but it was far too late.
私は失踪したと言いました。でもあなたは今はっきりと殺されたと言った。
My regret at slipping up must have been written all over my face. Ooishi-san's face twisted into a grin. Ooishi-san seemed to have discerned something from my momentary reaction.
確かに富武さんは亡くなっています。でもこの件は警察内の秘匿事項のはずなんですがね。誰からその話を聞きましたか？
I struggled to find the words to respond. There's no way I can tell him I heard it from Mion. The police were already starting to suspect Mion. So if I dropped her name here, the consequences could be disastrous. While I sat in silence, Oishi-san spoke up to move things along.
園崎美音さんのことをご存知ですか？
Hearing Mion's name so suddenly got my blood pumping.
そりゃクラスメートなんで。
I kept my answer ambiguous. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. I was completely overwhelmed by the desire to run away.
そういう意味じゃありませんよ。
I did my best to avoid getting upset or distracted in my answers, but Oishi-san kept staring into my heart with those sharp eyes. Despite the laughter in his voice, I could see no happiness in Oishi-san's eyes.
じゃあどういう意味で？
素顔とでも言いますか。
What? You mean Shion?
園崎美音が本当はどういう人物なのかという意味です。
Chapter break? No. Just skipping through skipping through the actual conversation. Probably shit talking about Yakuza and her stuff that happened when she was a child in the Dam Wars, which we later learned that Shion was the one doing it anyways, which is hilarious. But yeah. I was momentarily stunned by the temperature difference as I stepped out of Oishi-san's car. Oishi-san told me about a Mion completely different from the Mion I knew. It started during the dam conflict. Mion was taken into police custody several times for engaging in anti-dam protest activities. It was among the village's earliest acts of rebellion against the dam. And Mion was a leading official in the orchestration of resistance activities. The resistance activities were organized by the Sonozaki family. I heard that gangsters and organized crime groups were involved. Even more surprisingly, she has essentially become the leader of the Sonozaki family. Well, that's true. Kinda. How far did the Sonozaki family's reach extend? Just listening to it had me shivering. Mion is the acting leader of the Sonozaki family. Mion is the ruler of this village. True, kinda. That was the same Mion who warned me about the dangers of the Sonozaki family. But Mion herself sat at the top of the family. So why? Why tell me the story at the library? Maybe she was trying to give me a warning? By personally revealing the dark side of the Sonozaki family to me? Was that her way of telling me I could be eliminated if I start talking about these things, so I need to stay quiet? Beyond Sonozaki, I thought of her as a nice older friend who was good at being a leader. But in fact, just then a chill ran down my spine. I wasn't sure if it was because of the air conditioning or something completely different. For now, I should just head home. I was in the mood to just crawl into bed. So I walked home at a brisk pace. All kinds of thoughts were spinning through my head as I made my way home. First and foremost, I wanted to feel a vague sense of security. Once my house came into view, I finally started to feel safe. Then, right as I was on the verge of putting my hand on the door, I heard a voice from behind.
ケイイチくん、
Rena.
あ
Angry Rena. It was Rena calling out to me.
レナ、なんで俺んちの前に。
Just letting the train pass. Rena didn't respond to my question. She just kept staring at me.
ずいぶん遅かったんだね。
She was supposed to head home right when I got into Ooishi-san's car. But if Rena never went home, was she waiting for me in front of my house this whole time?
そうだよ。ケイイチくんの帰りを
Oh,
ずっとここで待ってた。
kind of spooky. It's been a long time since I got into Ooishi-san's car. That's not normal. It's that she wasn't just waiting for me, but setting up an ambush? And for such a long time. Rena's behavior is a bit abnormal, isn't it?
そうなんだ。それは悪かったな。あの刑事、なかなか返してくれなくてさ。
そうなんだ。ひどいね。
Rena was looking more and more upset. But I couldn't tell if her discomfort was stemming from Ooishi-san or for me.
ていうかさ、何の用なんだ。ずいぶん待っただろ、こんなとこで。
ケイイチくんのこと心配だったから待ってたんだよ。
The tone of Rena's voice was too hard, too cold, and too strong. It was frightening. Did I say something to offend her? Am I overthinking it? Rena seemed upset when I left her earlier. Was it just an extension of that? Somehow I got the impression Rena was unusually oversensitive. It might be best to avoid provoking her here. I looked downward as I pondered that, then I noticed. Come to think of it, what did Rena even have to be worried about? Ooishi-san is a detective, so he'd never do anything unsafe with me. Then why was Rena so worried about me? If she's worried about me spending time with a detective, then it's not my safety she's worried about. So then, what on earth was Rena so worried about that she'd set up such an awkward ambush?
ありがとう。でも、別に心配ないからさ。
何を聞かれたの？
Rena looked me directly in the eyes with a sharp gaze. It was a strong signal, with the implication that escape was impossible. Was Rena trying to figure out what I told the detective? Why? It was startling. I mean, to be fair, Rena is being very prying. I get what he's getting at, like, or what, yeah, like, he thinks, like, if Rena's not worried about my safety, then why would she be worried about what I said to the detective? And it is a little odd, to be fair. It does make it seem like Rena knows something when she doesn't, but we'll see where it goes. Boo. Loud train. I couldn't possibly tell the police the things I shouldn't even know about the Sonozaki family. No way. Impossible. Thoughts I'd rather not think about kept swirling around inside my head. Why would Rena be so concerned about the Sonozaki family? The answer was obvious. Rena was working with Mion. It looks like that, to be fair. If I was to suss of people. If Mion asked Rena to keep an eye on me, then everything adds up. A shiver started crawling up my back. I didn't say anything, nothing that would make me an enemy of the Sonozaki family. I don't know anything unsavory in the first place. That's right, I didn't hear anything from Mion, so I don't know anything. So I'll be alright. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Then I took a deep breath and responded to Rena in the lightest tone I could muster.
あ、レナに聞いた話だったよ。
富武さんの？
そう。他は別に何も。
本当に？ケイイチくん、顔が青いけど
Oh,
大
turning
丈夫
blue.
かな？
It's not a good sign. Rena sharpened her gaze and looked straight into my eyes. Rena doubted me, but I really didn't know anything, so there's no need to get upset. I mean, to be fair, Teichi is just kind of telling the truth. He just listened more than taught. Calm down, everything is fine.
そうかな。大丈夫だって。他には本当に何も聞かれなかった。
み
Oh,
ーちゃんのことも
oh, I guess he did technically ask, do you know Mion? And then he's just, I mean, Keiichi answered ambiguously, and then he just, like, explained, so. I just, like, maybe Rena is just looking out for Mion in general. Probably has the real explanation, not like some conspiracy shit. Mion? Why? Why would Rena suddenly drop Mion's name? Why would she bring Mion up right here, right now? Rena must be working with Mion after all. After all that accomplished was making me even more worried. But that's right, even if Rena and Mion are in cahoots, I really didn't tell that detective anything.
ミオン
True.
別に何も聞かれなかったぜ。
Come on, bro, just... I mean, we're still early in Higurashi. They don't know the real based responses. Just tell the truth and trust your friends, literally. That's all you need to it.
そうそれ私の時はみーちゃんの話をされ
Yep.
たよ
Come on, Keiichi. You just get caught in trap after trap. Rena gave me a suspicious glare as she said that. Her eyes seemed to pierce right through me. I hesitated for a moment to decide if I should tell her the truth. No, if I change my story now, it'll only make me look even more suspicious. I have no choice but to keep going.
女同士だからじゃないか。
そうかな
Kana.
本当にそうかな、なんでだろうね。でも当然レナは何も話さなかったけどね。
そうだよな。
I had no idea what she thought was so natural about that, but at any rate, I gave her a vague answer just to keep things moving.
それに私裏切り者じゃないしね。
I'm not a traitor. True.
レナが裏切り者なんて思ったこともないぞ。
そうだよね。それにみーちゃんを怒らせたら怖いからね。
Oh no. Oh no, not the cursed laugh from the chase scene. And things are really going bonkers. Rena's laughter didn't sound cheerful at all. Now that's a crazy laugh. If anything, it sounded like ridicule, mocking me for being a coward. Oh, was that a threat? Was Rena trying to force me to keep quiet? I didn't talk. I haven't said anything because I don't know anything. I have no connections to any of this. I was overwhelmed with the desire to refute Rena's assertions. But it felt so unnatural for me to come out and say something. It wasn't just Mion. Rena was trying to intimidate me too. I should be extra careful to avoid doing anything unnecessary, right? Am I planning to be on guard at all times from now on? I don't want to even think about what comes next. It's alright, as long as I can just get my fun everyday life back. I didn't want to think about anything else. I'm sorry I got caught up in these strange things. Anyway, I should hurry up and go inside. It's time for Rena to head home.
じゃあもう遅いからそろそろ帰ろうぜ。
True. Then get out of here.
逃げる気
Yes. Rena's tone voice cut into me in a flash.
なんでそうなるんだよ。
そうじゃさよなら。
Sayonara. After saying that in a terribly brusque voice, she quickly turned and started walking away. It felt like I was being abandoned. I was left dumbfounded. I wanted to say something to Rena, but I couldn't think of anything. It took all my strength just to watch Rena walk off from behind. Rena drifted further away, but after a few steps, she suddenly came to a halt and promptly turned back to me, with a frightening look in her eyes, full of doubt.
圭一くん 大丈夫だよね。
Nah, we sweating. The strength of her tone had me at a loss for words. Rena's eyes were piercing straight into my heart. What would happen if I betrayed their trust? Well, that's what Rena's eyes were telling me.
ああ、大丈夫。
Then Rena turned her back once again and started heading home. After watching Rena completely disappear into the distance, I rushed into my house to escape. Chapter end? Or break? The never-ending chapter. That was good though. Again, even if you know it's just Kichi's perspective issue, it's still so like intense. It's hard to ignore. Nope, it's literally just a chapter break. We're only 30 minutes in, so I'll keep going. But that probably means we're gonna get into a longer episode then, which is fine. The chirping birds made me feel at ease. It was a refreshing morning. It's been a while since I last woke up feeling this way. But the story Ooishi-san told me about Mion quickly filled my head. It was so unexpected, so unbelievable. A side of Mion I didn't know. No, Mion's true face. The side from her past when she organized radical activity on behalf of the damn opposition movement. Kinda sucks he's just believing Ooishi over his own friend, but again, level up. He's leveling up on the Hinamizawa syndrome. The dark, powerful face of the true leader of the Sonozaki family. But beyond all that, Mion was my friend. I wanted to keep thinking that. I wonder if Mion feels the same way about me. That she was my friend from school. But that could very well just be her face on the surface. Maintaining her position as the head of the Sonozaki family should be her top priority. When I thought about it that way, nothing seemed out of place. On the contrary, it seemed only natural. The everyday act of going to school was starting to weigh heavily on me. Mion wasn't waiting at our usual meeting place, so Ren and I headed to school together. I started feeling anxious about Mion's absence. But at the same time, something inside me felt a little relieved, and I felt disgusted with myself for it. I might be letting the darkness inside me influence my attitude. Rena seemed to pick up on my demeanor and opted not to say anything. So, Rena and I walked nearly the whole way to school in silence. My senses fogged over as soon as I arrived at school. Oh, right, Satoko's traps. I welcomed the change of pace, so I threw the classroom door open without hesitation. Rattle, rattle. But I found no trap awaiting me. I should be glad that I made it through unscathed, but I felt a little disappointed. I exchanged greetings with everyone, then made my way to my seat. The ongoing conversation between my friends annoyed me somehow, even though these were my friends. I put my head down and pretended to sleep. That way I can get through this until the teacher arrives. I had a major lack of energy today. On a day like today, I'd be forgiven if I really did fall asleep. But just then... Mion! Welcome back, buddy. Or Shion. It was Mion arriving at school a bit late. I guess her cold healed up. Though I was relieved to see her in good health, the story Ooishi told me yesterday immediately came back to me. Did she even have a cold at all? I continued pretending to sleep when Mion came over in an effort to avoid talking to her this morning. On the other hand, if I don't touch her now, it'll be that much harder to touch her later. I was bothered by the contradiction between those two ideals. As a result, I did my best to keep sleeping until the teacher arrived.
ケイチ、先生が来ましたのです。
Thank you, Rika. As soon as I heard Rita-chan's voice, I quickly raised my head and tried to hide the thoughts of running. I quickly raised my head and tried to hide the thoughts running through my head. Weird sentence. Then I thanked Rita-chan for the assist.
ああ、リカちゃんありがとう。今日は眠
Good
いな。
friend. Oh, look at that. That's a smug-looking Rita. But just as I was about to smile back at Rita-chan, I tensed up when I looked into her eyes. The glint in her eyes seemed to say, I know everything.
ケイちゃんおはよ
おう、ミオ、おはよ
う。なんか顔暗いけど大丈夫？
う。別に、なんでもないけど。
Wouldn't it be crazy if Mion didn't come to... It wasn't like Mion somehow broke free of Shion, and this is her again after killing Shion. We'll see though. I don't know. We need to see some hints of who's who. But it should be Shion unless Mion did something. After that brief greeting, Mion returned to her seat. I felt a little relieved. I wasn't confident in my ability to speak to Mion right now. No, it was clear from the moment I thought that I lacked the ability to talk to Mion that something was wrong with me. Mion isn't a bad person. If someone was targeting me, they'd let me know by now, which meant I wasn't being targeted, because nobody said anything to me. The chances of that seemed reasonably high. In fact, I think about it from a purely rational standpoint, that line of thinking seemed most appropriate. Am I just overwhelmed with paranoia thanks to that weird guy? Like, non-ironically, yeah? I can't let things stay like this. I absolutely need to do something. But even so, Mion is... Alright, how about Rita-chan? I've heard before Rita-chan is the head of the Furude family, one of the 3 great families of Hinamizawa. Given her age, she may just be a figurehead in her position. Still, she's close enough in age to Mion that they might be privy to the same level of information. Thanks to all of Mion's supporters in the Sonozaki family, if anything unsettling was afoot in the village, I wouldn't be surprised if it reached her ears too. That ought to be the case. But despite that, Rita-chan was still on friendly terms with me. However, I remember the look in Rita-chan's eyes earlier, gazing at me as if she knew everything. The elder villagers believed Rita-chan possesses some mysterious power. What if Rita-chan had another side to her too? Then, grave danger was rapidly approaching. Still, I have a few options available on how to approach this. I should check with Rita-chan to find out if I'm safe for now or not. I called out to Rita-chan during the break time. The 2 of us went to a place where nobody would see us. It was perfect. So this is like the Watanabe talk, kinda. Rita-chan kept watching me with a curious look on her face. Seeing that look on her face made me feel a little more relaxed. This was just the usual Rita-chan.
何のご用なのですか、ケイチ？
リカちゃん、あのさ。
はいなのです。
Oh?
もしかして突然の恋の告白なのですか？
いや、そうじゃなくて。
Aww.
残念なのです。では
Aww.
何の用ですか？
I was thrown for a loop by Rita-chan's banter, so she lightly tilted her head to the side as she asked that.
俺ってさ、誰かに狙われてないか？
狙われる？ケイチがですか？
なんかいくつか噂を聞いたりしてさ、そんなことないかななんて。村では俺のことよそ者って思ってる人もいるだろうし。
Rita-chan looked surprised and upset for a moment, but her expression quickly calmed down.
ケイチは何か悪いことをしたのですか？
No, we didn't even go to the storage shed.
してないって。悪いことなんて 誓って何もしてない。
それなら大丈夫なのです。
Rika-chan responded in a nonchalant tone. Was she angry? Or was she exasperated?
そうか。
何もしていないのであれば、普通に考えても何かをされる心配はないのです。
うん。だったらいいんだけど。
しつこいのです、ケイチ。
Rika-chan clearly wanted to bring our conversation to a close. Am I just being a hassle? Or was it a mistake to discuss this with Rika-chan? If it was the latter, it meant I just made a dangerous move. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do?
ケイチ、聞いていますか？
ああ、聞いてるよ。うん。
It seemed like she was calling out to me for a while. They say that Rika-chan possesses some mysterious divine power. If that's true, maybe she can even read my thoughts. I don't think that. I'm sorry, Chichi, but I really don't think you need a divine power to read your thoughts. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do?
もう一度、村の寄り合いでケイチの名前が挙がったことはありませんのです。
Here we go, setting the record completely straight. Is that so?
だから不安がる必要はゼロなのです。
Rita.
これでいいですか？
True.
ありがとう。おかげで気が楽になった。
Rita Furude told me I was safe as the head of the Furude family and a member of the 3 families. If that's true, I should definitely be safe. However, something about Rita-chan still seemed unusual. Her words seemed sharper than usual and more cold. Then Rita-chan seized the opportunity and spoke up in a terribly sullen voice.
そもそもケイチは何をそんなに怖がっているのですか？変に不安がっているから余計に犬さんを怒らせてしまう
No,
のです。
don't throw doggies. No doggies.
ワンワンワン。
Woof. Wham wham. That sounded like the usual Rita-chan, but right now I could still hear the danger lurking underneath those words.
こんなケイチはあまり見ていたくないのです。
Here, take this shot.
だから
Oh, no.
さよならなのですよ。
Just leave me. Farewell. In the end, I couldn't say anything. Once again, I came to realize my actions hadn't solved anything. There was even a chance that my missteps had made matters worse. I've been running away. Too bad. Rita tried. That was like a very solid, like just literally just telling him the fact that like, no, you've never been mentioned, but he's at the point where you just can't believe. I've been running away from Mion. Speaking with Mion won't necessarily solve my problems. In the worst case scenario, it could put me in even more danger. But it can't be helped. I need to talk to Mion directly. School had just let out. Mia needed to get to her part-time job, so she left the classroom on her own. I was a bit nervous thinking about approaching her one-on-one. But given what we need to discuss, it seemed ideal. So I chased after Mion.
ミオン、あのさ。
ケイちゃんどうしたの？
Mion responded exactly like usual. She turned back and our eyes met. I realized it had been a long time since we faced one another like this. I wonder if Mion feels the same way.
いや、一緒に帰ろうと思ってさ。
へえ、ケイちゃんから声かけられるの久しぶりだよね。
そうかな。
The chorus of the Higurashi rained out as we walked down the usual path side by side for the first time in ages. However, Mion looked different from usual. Her expression looked a bit stiff, but I wondered if it was all in my head. Even though I was able to catch Mion, what should I say? What can I ask? Indecision ran wild inside my head. Or more precisely, I lacked the ability to reach a decision. The path with Mion was quickly reaching the splitting point. I needed to hurry up and say something. But all that impatience amounted to nothing. Mion confidently came over and poked me.
で、何なの？
何なのって何が？
話があるからわざわざ追いかけてきた。違う？
There was no rebuke or venom in her voice, but I could feel the determination behind it, as if she were telling me it had better be good. At this point, I had no choice but to be completely frank.
ああ、さすがだな。
で、何？
なんで綿流しの連続殺人事件のことずっと隠してたんだ？
I carefully studied Mion's expression. How would she react to that?
不安がらせたくなかったからね。ケイちゃん、ひなみ沢に来て間がなかったし。
See, this seems like real Mion, which is kind of weird, but I'm analyzing. See if she slips up. I didn't see anything suspicious in her explanation.
じゃあなんで祭りが終わったら話したんだ？
なんか黙ってると余計不安になるかなって思ってさ。
Okay. This explanation too. Well, that makes it more Shion if they're talking about the library thing. Once again, there's nothing suspicious.
結局話しても話さなくてもいいことにはならなかったな。
Mion tried to force a smile as she muttered that. Was it all in my head? Mion and I were having a completely ordinary conversation right now. And there's absolutely nothing suspicious about the answers she's giving me. I started thinking so, but the next moment, Mion stopped walking and slowly turned to me. Uh-oh. Her eyes were intensely staring straight at me.
で、
ミオン。
で、どうする？
What?
このまま黙ってるか、それとも。
それともって。
Who is this person? The gaze emitted from those eyes was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. The person in front of me right now can't be Mion. It's another person. Those were the keen eyes of a predator, sapping the freedom of all who gaze upon them. With a horrifying glow emanating from within, I felt like I had no options to choose from. I finally gained the strength to utter a few words. No, I was forced to say them.
仲間だろ俺たち。
仲間ね。
Uh-oh. Mian's dry laughter paralyzed me. I got the impression she was saying those words had no meaning. Or more specifically, like she was telling me that friendship didn't matter. If I got in the way, I was simply an enemy.
まあいいや。それじゃ、今度こそこの話はこれっきりだよ。
Okay. Mian turned the corner like usual and went toward her house. Then she said bye-bye, as if nothing had happened at all. For a while, I stood there unable to move. I couldn't understand, was Mian a threat or not? I stood completely still as the chorus of Higurashi echoed through my ears. Break? End? Either way, I think we're wrapping up the video. That went faster than I thought, because that's only a 20-minute chapter break segment. No, this it's actually never ending. Okay, I mean that's again, it's fine, but I guess we'll just pace ourselves with the chapter break instead of the chapter end. Anyways, good episode. I'm still not 100% sure if that's like right now, because before it was obviously Shion, but right now if that's Mion or not. The fact that they referenced talking at the light, it was kind of vague though. If she was like describing the library talk or not, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping it's Mion somehow breaking through because that's funny, but or interesting. But yeah, I mean, good episode. We met Ooishi. It looks like he's just making general rounds to people, which is interesting. We haven't seen that tactic before. He usually likes to like focus on one person to take his side, but yeah, different game plan, tackling it a different way. But we'll see how this what happens. The fact that it's raining, this is the night where like Rena tried to give dinner and Keiichi rejects her and stuff, but like right now Keiichi's not that close to Ooishi where he's getting phone calls. Though maybe now he will. And so we'll see what this night brings. Maybe we'll get a spooky Mion thing instead. We'll have to see though. Because she did promise to make dinner for him one day. That could be like the Jut stuff from the Rena making dinner. But anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time on some more Higurashi Taraiwamashi. Until then, have a great time. Peace. And if you haven't subbed, please sub. Just so you can follow the channel better. Because we're going to be doing all the console arts. And, you know, just a little hint, even though it's like so far away, we'll probably like do that extra Umineko stuff after, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, until then, peace.